Picture this, a secret so enormous that it could shake the very foundations of one of the most iconic institutions in the world. What if everything you thought you knew about Prince Harry, Meghan Markle, and the British royal family, everything was about to change forever? And what if I told you the truth behind this revelation isn't just shocking, it's a direct challenge to the power structure itself? For years, we've been fed stories, rumors, and tabloid gossip. But what if all of it has been leading up to one colossal truth that could unravel the monarchy as we know it? Stick with me, because in the next few minutes, I'm going to take you behind the headlines and show you the truth that's been kept hidden, right under our noses. You're about to witness a royal reckoning. Trust me, you don't want to miss this. Stay tuned. In the dead of night, without ceremony or warning, Prince Harry stepped back onto British soil. No motorcade, no Meghan, no explanation. But something had changed, and it wasn't just the man. Whispers inside Windsor began hours before his arrival, murmuring of a revelation so damning that even exile could no longer protect him. Why now? And why alone? The questions swirled as the monarchy held its breath. The moment wasn't marked by the usual fanfare. No private terminal at Heathrow, no royal entourage to greet him, no photographers flashing away. The only thing that set the arrival apart was who didn't meet him at the airport. Meghan was nowhere to be seen. There was no press, no royal protection, only Prince Harry stepping into the back of a discreetly marked vehicle arranged under a different name. The silence was unnerving, but it wasn't just the media that was caught off guard. It was the palace itself. Clarence House received the alert 90 minutes before Harry's arrival. Even Charles, the king, had no time to prepare a statement. This wasn't a visit, it was a reckoning. The vehicle that picked Harry up didn't belong to a royal convoy. It belonged to a fleet normally reserved for Princess Catherine's private charitable movements. Sources confirmed that it was Catherine herself who authorized the transportation, not Buckingham, not Charles. Insiders whispered, had she been warned? Had she seen what was coming long before the rest? Whatever her motives, the gesture was unmistakable. Dignity must be maintained, even in confrontation. By the time Harry's feet touched the gravel of Clarence House, the royal staff was in disarray. No protocol had been triggered. No official channels had been consulted. There was no press embargo, no pre-declared itinerary. For all intents and purposes, the fifth in line to the throne had returned, not as royalty but as a rogue. And yet, the palace opened its doors because what was coming next was too big to ignore. Inside, behind doors lined with decades of history, the first confrontation in nearly 5 years began. But this wasn't the return of a son, it was a summons. Harry hadn't come to reconcile. He had come to deliver a demand, not just to Charles, but to the institution itself. Accompanied by legal counsel, Harry placed a sealed folder on the table, one that carried allegations, one that questioned loyalties, and one that held a truth he believed had been kept from him for far too long. This wasn't the same man who once laughed from palace balconies or gave playful interviews beside his brother. This was a man hardened by isolation, armed with documents, and unshaken by titles. The air inside Clarence House, once filled with generational power and privilege, now vibrated with a different force, resentment. He didn't ask for tea, he didn't embrace his father. He opened that folder and began reading line by line. And while aides waited anxiously outside, one phrase repeated itself again and again. I want the truth, and I want it now. No one expected this. Not Charles, not Catherine, not even William. Because this time, Harry wasn't just blaming the system. He was exposing what he believed had been orchestrated all along. But behind Harry's sudden return lies a secret buried not in the past, but in Meghan's present. One so volatile it shook the very foundation of royal silence. It wasn't a tabloid rumor. It wasn't baseless gossip. What triggered Harry's return was a sealed dossier delivered to his private counsel, marked confidential. Prior to marriage, what lay inside wasn't about royalty. It was about deception, about someone Harry thought he knew, and what he read broke him. The document arrived on a quiet Tuesday afternoon in Montecito, hand-delivered, stamped with international legal markings and accompanied by no warning or commentary. Inside, Harry found a collection of emails, financial transaction records, and a detailed account of a relationship Meghan had never disclosed. Not to the press, not to her friends, and most devastatingly, not to him. The man in question was unnamed in the file, referred to only by legal pseudonyms and redacted title. But Harry knew enough to fill in the blanks. This wasn't a relic of Meghan's distant past. This relationship, alleged in these documents, spanned into the very months when Harry and Meghan's own courtship began to take root. What stunned him wasn't just the timing, it was the trail. Secret communications between Meghan's legal advisor and a figure now revealed as her former associate. Messages that indicated financial arrangements, promises of silence, and eventually a payout. A single wire transfer marked "final installment" shook Harry more than anything he had ever faced inside or outside palace walls. He had walked away from the institution to protect her, but had she already hidden herself from him? By the time Harry confronted his legal team, more pieces had surfaced. A confidential settlement reached under U.S. Civil Code confidentiality laws was now being quietly challenged in court due to an apparent breach of agreement. Whispers of this buried chapter were already turning into murmurs dangerously close to headlines. Meghan's lawyers scrambled to suppress further leaks, filing emergency motions in California courts to shield her personal history from further scrutiny. But it was too late. The paper trail had made its way across the Atlantic and into palace hands. Feeling the floor vanish beneath him, Harry turned not to Meghan but to his father, not as a monarch but as a man. He didn't ask about titles or succession. He asked one question: did you know? According to sources close to the confrontation, Charles did not respond with words at first, just a long, piercing silence. And in that moment, Harry knew the answer. He had been protected by the crown's silence, but never informed by it. A protection that now felt more like a betrayal than a shield. Harry's voice reportedly broke during the exchange, accusing the institution of orchestrating not just a campaign against Meghan, but a controlled silence about her, one that served the palace as long as it maintained order. But now, it had unraveled everything. What began as a romance across continents had metastasized into something darker. A palace, a prince, and a partner, all withholding truths, all drowning under the weight of them. And yet this was only the beginning, because what Charles revealed next turned the confrontation into an institutional crisis. When a father becomes a monarch, some truths are buried not to protect, but to preserve. And in the drawing room of Clarence House, King Charles finally lifted the veil. His words weren't angry. They were measured, devastatingly precise. "I knew," he said, and the silence that followed echoed through centuries of tradition. There were no interruptions, no excuses, just that one admission. Charles had known. Long before the royal wedding, long before the world celebrated a new duchess, intelligence had crossed his desk from discreet channels, just like it had for every potential royal entrant. Meghan was vetted, scrutinized, observed. And while no illegal behavior had been reported, concerns were raised. Financial irregularities, public relationships with undisclosed high-profile individuals, a history that, according to the internal report, came with vulnerabilities, not disqualifications but risks. And the monarchy, true to form, said nothing. To Charles, that silence was protection. To Harry, it was betrayal. As the king recounted the decision to let the wedding proceed without disclosure, to let Harry marry with eyes closed, the younger prince's composure shattered. His voice, already shaking, broke as he demanded, "Why didn't you tell me?" Charles, calm but unyielding, responded not with apology but with a principle. Because the crown cannot afford panic. Stability outweighed discomfort. We protected you, Harry, at great cost. The moment cracked like glass. For Harry, the wound wasn't just that his wife's past had been kept from him. It was that the monarchy had known and allowed it to linger, to fester, until it came back in the form of legal documents and whispers across continents. He accused his father of manipulation, of treating him like a pawn in a PR strategy that valued optics over emotional truth. "You knew what she was walking into," he shouted. And you said nothing because the photos would look good. Charles didn't raise his voice. He didn't argue. He simply said the line that would etch itself into history. You asked for truth. You didn't ask for mercy. It wasn't cruel. It was clinical. The monarch speaking as guardian of the institution, not as a father trying to comfort his son. The line drew a boundary between blood and crown, between family and state. In that moment, any hope Harry had of reclaiming something personal from this deeply political machine vanished. For a man who had walked away from the royal fold in search of freedom, Harry had now walked back into a palace where truth was currency and mercy was a myth. Charles may have broken his silence, but he did end. At bend. The monarchy, as he made painfully clear, does not answer to feelings. It answers to function. But if Charles's betrayal cut deep, what came next would destroy any notion of brotherhood that remained between Harry and William. It was supposed to be a family, a brotherhood forged by loss, tested by duty. But William's reaction wasn't royal, it was raw. You let her dismantle this family, he snapped as aides scrambled to de-escalate the scene. It wasn't just about Meghan anymore. It was about trust, loyalty, and lines that had finally been crossed. For years, William had held his tongue. He watched as interviews were aired, documentaries released, memoirs published. He absorbed the accusations, the character assassinations, the whispers about his wife. But this Harry, returning, not for reconciliation but with lawyers and ultimatums, was the moment the dam finally broke. Behind closed doors at Kensington Palace, it wasn't the future king speaking. It was the brother who had spent a lifetime protecting a family now under siege from within. The confrontation wasn't scheduled, but it was inevitable. The moment Harry left Clarence's house, William demanded a meeting, one-on-one. No mediators. What unfolded wasn't a conversation, it was a rupture. William didn't ask Harry why he'd come back. He told him what he'd destroyed. With his voice shaking, he laid bare the consequences. Fractured diplomacy, compromised security, and, worst of all, Meghan's recent attempt to access confidential royal financial accounts after their official exit. A digital trail discreetly buried by palace tech teams had confirmed unauthorized login attempts. The source was indirect, but the timing and network IP traced back to a known associate of Meghan's legal advisory circle. But that wasn't the worst of it. William then presented the final blow, a recording. Not for press, not for blackmail, but for proof. A US-based podcast host known for provocative royal commentary had played audio clips of messages that were unmistakably Catherine's, intimate reflections meant for a friend, painfully personal. Those messages had been leaked, and the thread of origin again looped back to someone within Meghan's extended circle. William had promised Catherine he would never bring it up, but now Harry needed to hear it. She didn't just hurt the monarchy, William said through clenched teeth. She violated the only person who never once fought back. Harry denied involvement. He accused William of believing the worst, of buying into a narrative built to divide them. But William was done with belief. He wasn't operating on trust anymore, only evidence. You're not just a disappointment, he said. You're a traitor to blood and crown. Those words, once unimaginable between brothers, landed with the force of a dynasty tearing at the seams. Aides intervened as voices escalated and threats of exposure loomed. Harry was escorted out. William canceled his upcoming public engagement, citing a private family matter. But the press, ever watchful, knew something had shifted. The smiles had stopped. The rehearsed gestures had disappeared. The air was no longer holding back. But as the brothers shattered their final bond, one woman remained eerily calm and devastatingly silent. She didn't speak. She didn't retaliate. Yet her silence screamed louder than any scandal Meghan could manufacture. As Catherine stepped into a children's hospice the next morning, the nation watched, not a victim, but a symbol. And Harry, he saw the crown's chosen face and what Meghan would never be. While headlines roared and social media frothed with speculation, Catherine followed her schedule without a single public deviation. Her engagement at the hospice had been booked weeks in advance, but its timing felt like a statement, subtle, deliberate, and steeped in quiet resolve. She wore a deep navy ensemble, a brooch long associated with Queen Elizabeth, and a composure that could not be shaken. There were no sidelong glances, no words about Harry, and certainly no reference to the accusations flooding international press. It was the embodiment of royal control, grace without defensiveness, calm in the face of fire. What the public didn't see, however, was Catherine's role behind closed doors. She wasn't hiding, she was managing. In strategy meetings with senior aides and communications directors, Catherine took the lead on recalibrating the monarchy's media posture, not through aggressive statements but through contrast. While others in the family wrestled with confrontation, she chose presence. While Harry wielded emotion, Catherine offered steadiness. And through it all, she never once asked for sympathy because in her silence, she had already claimed the narrative. That narrative, however, was under threat from unexpected corners. A leaked internal studio memo obtained by a London-based investigative outlet revealed that Catherine's name had been included in a pitch for a US-based TLL project, one rumored to be backed by a streaming giant. The memo described her as the passive force that destroyed Meghan, a phrase that sparked outrage among royal staff and deepened the chasm between camps. The pitch, insiders confirmed, had come from a California production team with direct ties to Meghan's former media consultant. Though the project was never greenlit, the leak was explosive, and the palace knew exactly where it had originated. But through the chaos, Catherine never changed course. Insiders say her resolve wasn't rooted in pride but in responsibility. She had watched the monarchy fracture, not from scandal alone but from the desperation of those who felt unseen beside her. Meghan hadn't wanted to become Catherine. She had wanted to eclipse her. And when that failed, bitterness grew. Because Catherine, simply by being, had reminded the world what the monarchy expected in its future queen: stoicism, self-restraint, and a power that didn't require a microphone. The result was an unexpected groundswell. Across the UK, women began posting messages of solidarity under the hashtag #WindsorWomen. Posts flooded timelines. Teachers, nurses, mothers, diplomats, women who saw in Catherine not just royalty but reflection, dignity under pressure, silence as strength. It wasn't orchestrated, it was organic. And it marked the moment Catherine ceased to be just a figure within the monarchy. She became its shield. But as the royal image solidified around Catherine, another figure prepared to dismantle it all from across the ocean. From red carpets to headlines, Meghan had built a kingdom of her own, one of influence, applause, and curated truth. But this time, the script had flipped. Her silence wasn't strategy, it was survival. And Hollywood, once enchanted, was quietly closing the door. The fallout didn't begin with a single scandal. It began with silence. As Harry returned to the UK with damning allegations and legal tensions rising around their family, Meghan remained in California. No statements, no denials, just stillness. But in Hollywood, silence speaks volumes. Behind closed doors, brands that once clamored to align with the Duchess of Sussex began to retreat. One by one, sponsorships that had been negotiated at seven-figure levels were quietly suspended, citing ethical reviews and internal reevaluations. The sheen was fading, and what was once a media darling was now becoming a liability. Then came the blow no one expected. Netflix, the platform that had given the Sussexes their most powerful storytelling vehicle, postponed their upcoming docuseries indefinitely. Insiders claimed creative misalignment, but few bought the excuse. The real reason, sources said, was fear. Fear that their investment had turned from a cultural moment into a PR disaster. Executives weren't willing to gamble on a narrative collapsing in real time. But the most public humiliation came not from corporate boardrooms but from Hollywood itself. At a high-profile United Nations gala in New York, Meghan arrived to fanfare, only to be publicly rebuked by actor Kevin Costner, who accused her of inserting herself into royal and humanitarian efforts for personal clout. His words weren't whispered, they were spoken into microphones. "She showed up like she still had a crown," he said. And just like that, the room shifted. Meghan, once celebrated as a disruptor, was now being seen as a disruptor with no direction. Meanwhile, whispers from former staffers began to circulate, hinting at non-disclosure agreements shielding truths that, if revealed, could further implode Meghan's narrative. One former aide claimed there were entire chapters of Meghan's past relationships, financial entanglements, private negotiations that had been meticulously scrubbed before her royal debut. The palace had stayed silent, but now, without their protection, those fragments were beginning to surface. Meghan's legal team moved swiftly. Cease and desist letters were fired off to British tabloids and American outlets, but this time they were met with resistance. Editors cited public interest. Lawyers pushed back, and the shield of silence Meghan once relied on began to splinter. Her brand, built on resilience and reinvention, was now consumed by contradictions. Amid the chaos, a new rumor began to circulate. Meghan, sources revealed, was preparing to release a solo memoir, a final act to reclaim the narrative, to tell her version without interference. But critics weren't convinced. Was this truth or another performance? And more importantly, would anyone still be listening? As Hollywood distanced itself from Meghan, another storm prepared to detonate in Europe, one that could rewrite royal lineage itself. For months, she was a whisper, a shadow. But now she had a name and documents. As DL prepared for her televised bombshell, the monarchy braced for what may be its darkest hour, a revelation that could invalidate two heirs and fracture royal continuity. Tie forever. Her identity had been shielded with precision, legal filings marked with initials only, leaks attributed to anonymous sources, mentions in fringe forums and redacted reports. But now DL was stepping into the light, armed with receipts. On January 3, 2026, she would speak live, unfiltered, and televised across the UK and United States. The interview, confirmed by her legal team, wasn't speculation. It was a coordinated strike, and its target was not just Harry or Meghan. It was the crown itself. DL's claim was as extraordinary as it was devastating. She asserted a biological connection to Archie and Lilibet, alleging that she had been the undisclosed surrogate for both children. But this wasn't a mere personal story. It came with paperwork, medical documentation, signed non-disclosure agreements, and financial records that, if verified, would confirm the existence of an arrangement deliberately hidden from both the public and the monarchy's legal advisors. You've just witnessed the beginning of an explosive story, one that could change everything about how we view the royal family. But this is only the tip of the iceberg. What's coming next could challenge the very foundation of the monarchy. The secrets, the betrayals, the truths that are about to be revealed will leave you on the edge of your seat. You won't want to miss the next chapter of this royal scandal, so make sure you subscribe right now. Don't wait. Hit that bell icon too, because this story is far from over. If you think you've heard it all, just wait. The revelations are coming fast, and you'll be the first to hear them right here. And while you're at it, drop a comment below and let me know. Do you think Harry is the hero, or is he the one tearing everything apart? Let's talk about it. Your voice matters in this conversation. Remember, truth is coming, and we're here for all of it.